Have you ever tried drawing glass hair? This was supposed to be a simple Twitter tutorial test. What about I draw a girl with glass hair? Simple enough? Well, it was more difficult than expected. So I will bring you along with the process of how I painted this from start to finish using this tutorial, so you too can also paint glass without falling into the pitfalls I did. And by tutorial, I may have stretched the definition of tutorial here. There are no discernible instructions, but just because a tutorial doesn't have any discernible steps, instructions, or any context whatsoever doesn't mean that it's a bad tutorial. Am I going to quit just because something isn't spoon-fed to me every single step? Evidently not, since I repainted the hair 1, 2, 3. Drawing from imagination, I'm thinking, what will look cool? This girl who I'm drawing is a commander of an undead army, so a pose that would look good while floating in a black void would be her commanding them, ushering forth her army. Why black void? I'm thinking the long game, so that I can make it holographic later. After I stretched and resketched the rough, I moved on to the colors. Separate every single color onto a different layer, go to the color wheel, move the color in vaguely this direction, add shadows, and then on every single layer, add a tone curve adjustment layer and add extra colors to balance everything out. Yes, I know I should go into more detail about how to do this, but this is another video in of itself. This video is about glass hair. I mean, I'd have to go over color spaces, what RGB each of these channels are. On your screen, whatever you're watching this from, each pixel is made out of little light-emitting diodes. These 3 colors. Why? Your eyes have different light sensors, cones and rods, but we only need to care about cones here. And we use these to interpret the colors of light all around us. Different wavelengths of light have different colors. But we only have 3 types of cones, red, green, and blue light detectors in our eyes that allow us to perceive white light, even if we don't have white light detectors. How? White light is made up of all the colors, including red, green, and blue wavelengths. So, if all of these detectors are activated strongly enough at the same time, we think we see white light. We only have red, green, and blue detectors, so we only need these 3 lights to think we're seeing white. So any white on your screen means that all of the diodes are on at the same time at that specific part of the screen. What about any other color? The difference between how much each of the red, green, and blue detectors are activated leads to what our brain thinks we're seeing. Pure monochromatic yellow light activates the red and green detectors, but no blue. So, if we only turn on the red and green diodes, leaving blue off, we think we see yellow light, even if there is no yellow light to begin with. We can't tell the difference between pure monochromatic yellow light from a yellow LED versus red and green LEDs stimulating our receptors that exact same way. Our brains think there's yellow on our screens, but it's all an elaborate ruse. We can mix and match which of these 3 diodes are on or off and see what we get. But we can do much, much more. These diodes don't have to be all the way on or off. When you are adjusting using curves, you unfortunately need to know this information. I wasn't just yapping for no reason. Each curve corresponds to these 3 color diodes on screen and how much they are turned on or off. The left are the diodes that are closer to being off, the darker parts of the image, and the right are the diodes closer to being all the way on, the brighter parts of the image. So let's say you want the whole image to look yellow. Turn all of the red and green diodes up. But because we're turning them on, the brightness also increases. You're turning on the lights, after all. What if I want the image to be yellow but not bright? Well, if yellow is the absence of blue, if we turn these blue diodes off, the whole image looks yellow but darker. Exactly what we want. This white channel is affecting all the diodes as a whole. Want everything to look darker? Turn the diodes down. If you want the darker parts of the image to be brighter, but the brighter parts of the image to stay the same, make sure you're only moving these left parts of the curve up, since they correspond to the darker parts of the image. Taking this into the red, green, and blue channels, to add color like I'm doing now, you need to have a vague idea of what colors you want to add to the image. I wanted the hair to have an overall pink tone, so I increased the brightness of the red and blue diodes, since red and blue make magenta. But I want the shadow to be more blue before transitioning into pink in the light. To make that transition, we need to increase the brightness of the blue diodes for those darker parts of the image, while increasing the brightness of the red diodes of only the brighter parts of the image. So the blue curve will be bigger and a little bit more shifted to the left. Okay, I acknowledge that this is unnecessarily complicated. Now, knowing this, why not just pick colors from the color wheel? Use multiply hard overlay layers to color. Why would you do this to yourself? Because it looks cool. Let's get past drawing the lines. I do this for one reason, so it's easier for me to set the flats with a paint bucket. And I do this, set the flats, for one reason only. I can move each of my refs over each clean flat and clip it down for coloring. I don't need to recolor anything. Just take the refs I already made and refine. I added some details with the layer outline, and now we get to the main reason I made this video, the hair. Only halfway through. Saving the best for last, oh no. I did make a rough of what colors I wanted the hair to be, so I sampled each so that I could use them in the tutorial, separating the base pink and the darker shadow colors. This tutorial seems to have two paths we can take, light from above and light from in front. I picked light from above. Looks like there's 3 steps. Making the base gradient, okay, simple. Then whatever this is. Okay, so the front is darker, and then there's a sharp edge that turns bright near the skin of the face, and as you go down, the strands get darker. But then there's the reflecting light from below, which makes these areas. And don't forget the curved highlight here, and there's dots in the middle. And the next step is that there's saturation around these dots and strands. This doesn't look bad per se, it just doesn't look like glass. Doesn't look half as shiny as the tutorial, and I think I know why. The tutorial uses the difference between the dark shades and the very bright highlights to make it look shiny, but because my base color was already not very dark, the effect isn't as apparent, especially when zoomed out. And all of my nice saturated colors are gone. Let's retry with a bright saturated purple for the shadows. Still not looking like glass. Maybe I can add some shines? Clearly, I needed a break. I didn't even realize that this wasn't in CYK. But we don't give up. I want glass hair, so I will do everything to fix this. Time to recolor. With even more curves, make it a little bit more green, brighter, add a light shiny thingy, add more curves. Let's work on everything but the hair to save the hardest for last. I didn't use any tutorial for the glass horns and tail, but it looks so much better. You know what? Let's analyze what we did wrong. Let's sample the color I used for the horns and look at the tutorial one last time. Oh, I get it. The bright light are at these parts, but the darkest areas are right beside or underneath the highlights. And that's exactly what I did with the horns. Place the darkest colors right next to the bright light on top. So we can fix the hair and make it more glass-like by following this pattern. Usually when a tutorial fails, one of 3 things happened. 1, the proportions are off. 2, the saturation of the colors are off. Or 3, the values or how dark the colors are off. In my first retry, I tested it by upping the saturation, but when it still wasn't fixed, by process of elimination, I knew the values were what I got wrong. Almost across the finish line, I just needed to follow the flow of the hair, define more sections, beside each bright highlight add a dark color below, adjust the final colors for the background figures so that the main figure is the main focus, use a soft brush so that it looks like the hair and fire are glowing in the dark, add a brightness contrast adjustment layer because the contrast is a little too much and burns my eyes to look at. As is tradition, I rank every tutorial I try. B tier. I did kinda use it, so it's not C. I guess it works. But only after some analysis. The rest of Zetto's art looks so good though. It's a shame that I had such a tough time with it. Maybe I'll try tutorials with actual text next time. Moral of the story? I think this tutorial stunlocked me more than it actually helped. And I get way too passionate about tone curves. Thanks for watching. I'd say that I had fun painting this if that wasn't a complete lie. I think the funnest part of making this was explaining how to use curves. The more I use curves, I think I need to spread the word of this superior technique. I think I talked about it too much. It made up half the video. Oh no. Should I have titled this How to Use Tone Curve Tools? But that wasn't the main reason why I made this video, so nah. Anyways, see ya!